Let me tell you a story about comfort, about how safety and routine can sometimes lull us into overlooking subtle dangers. When Daniel and I first started our life together, everything felt idyllic. Picture this: cozy dinners under the hum of kitchen lights, laughter drifting out onto the porch as the sun slides behind our backyard oaks. Have you ever believed, truly believed, that nothing could disrupt the world you've built? I did. Psychologists call this normalcy bias, the tendency to underestimate the possibility of disaster simply because life has been so stable. But normalcy, I'd later learn, is only the surface of a deeper, sometimes shifting ground. Now, Daniel brought his own circle into our lives, a tight-knit group of friends, with Brian always at the center. From the outside, Brian's presence was like a warm current, loud, energetic, always quick with a joke. But here's a question: how often do we mistake charisma for character? Daniel trusted his old friend implicitly, and by association, I did too. Sociologists call this transitive trust. If someone you trust vouches for another, you grant that person unearned credibility. It's subtle, but it's potent and sometimes dangerous. Looking back, I see how easy it is to let your guard down when everyone seems familiar, when the rituals of shared meals and weekend barbecues build the illusion of safety. But under that surface, dynamics shift and boundaries blur. Have you ever ignored a red flag because you didn't want to believe the worst? That's where this story really begins. Now you might be thinking, how does a friend become a threat? The shift is almost imperceptible until suddenly it isn't. That Saturday night felt like any other. Food, laughter, the comforting background chatter of old friends. But when the house emptied and Daniel went to bed, Brian lingered in the kitchen. It started with a compliment, harmless, right? But the energy changed. His words grew heavier, his gaze too direct. Have you ever had a conversation where the subtext was louder than the words themselves? In that moment, Brian crossed a boundary. My heart raced with the primal alarm psychologists call fight or flight. I confronted him, telling him to leave. His smile faltered, and suddenly the room felt small. What's fascinating is how quickly a safe place can become a stage for fear. The psychological term personal space invasion sounds clinical, but the reality is visceral. You feel it in your bones. Relief only came when Daniel entered, unknowingly breaking the tension. Now, you might ask, why not say something right away? Here's the conflict. Loyalty to your partner clashes with the fear of causing pain or drama. Would you risk unsettling your marriage to expose a friend's betrayal? I hesitated, but as the night wore on, the weight of silence grew heavier than the moment itself. Let's fast forward to the days that followed. Brian's behavior didn't end in the kitchen. The texts began first innocent, then unmistakably inappropriate. If you've ever received an unwanted message, you know how it lingers, a digital echo of a boundary crossed. Psychologists call this persistent boundary violation. It's when a person, emboldened by minimal consequences, escalates their behavior. I deleted messages, hoping avoidance would kill his persistence, but it only grew. Now, imagine sitting across from your partner at dinner, carrying a secret that feels like a lead weight. The hypothetical voices in my head were relentless. Will Daniel believe me? Will he blame me? Am I overreacting? But here's the truth. Secrecy doesn't protect love. It corrodes it. That night, I chose honesty. My hands trembled as I showed Daniel the messages. His face, a storm of disbelief and anger, told me this was no small betrayal. By naming the problem, I shifted the power dynamic. In relationships, the term emotional transparency refers to sharing vulnerability in order to build trust. I thought silence would protect Daniel, but instead, honesty pulled us closer. Sometimes, the hardest conversations are the ones that save us. Here's the climax. Daniel didn't lash out. He chose something more difficult, confronting the friend he'd known for years with calm resolve. We met Brian in a coffee shop, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Daniel's voice was steady as he laid out the evidence, those digital breadcrumbs that proved betrayal. "You crossed the line you can never come back from," he said. In that moment, Brian's charm evaporated. replaced by denial, then feeble excuses. But Daniel held firm. This is what psychologists call boundary reinforcement, reasserting the lines that define respect and trust. Would you have done the same? It's not just about anger. It's about protecting the home you've built from inside threats. As Brian left, our lives changed. The circle closed, but tighter than before, without the weak link. Daniel turned to me and said words I'll never forget. You're my wife, my partner. No one gets to disrespect you. That's the heart of real loyalty, not blind allegiance to old friendships, but commitment to the person you've chosen to build a life with. Now, as the dust settled, you might expect life to just return to normal. But big moments leave ripples. Daniel lost a friend, yes, but gained a deeper partnership with me. In the language of relationship experts, we experienced post-traumatic growth, the idea that adversity, when faced together, makes us stronger. Our communication sharpened, our trust deepened. We learned that silence isn't safety, it's a shadow that lets betrayal hide. Let me leave you with this. If you ever feel a boundary is being crossed, speak up. Silence may seem like the easier path, but it's a breeding ground for resentment and further trespass. And if you're a partner, listen, believe, and act. The real test of love isn't just in happy moments, but in the courage to stand together when storms hit. That's what Daniel and I discovered. True partnership is forged in the fires of challenge, not comfort. So next time you find yourself brushing off discomfort, ask, whose peace am I protecting? And what does real loyalty demand of us? Because, in the end, silence protects no one. Only truth does.